Welcome to another edition of the GM Shuffle with Michael Lombardi, presented by DraftKings and VEASAN. I'm your host, Femi Abebefe. As always, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. Our producer, Elliot Bowman, with us on the ones and twos as always. Coming up in the podcast, the Steelers get a big Sunday night victory. Also, Jarrett Stidham and the Raiders push the 49ers to the brink in Las Vegas. But, Michael, we got to start with the game that clinched the NFC South. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers beat the Carolina Panthers 30-24. It looked like this was going to be another game where Tampa just beat itself, but in the second half, things really turned, and the Bucs are the South Division champs.
Well, first of all, Happy New Year, Femi. I appreciate, enter 2023. I'm looking forward to doing the shuffle with you as we go forward. It kind of an interesting today is almost like New Year's Day. We got a bunch of college games, so enjoy your day. Enjoy the festival that you're got to do. You got to work tonight, though, right? I got to work later, so you got to work that. All right, so you're working, but you get to watch games. That's not working. I mean, look, I was worried for Carolina going into the game because they didn't have J.C. Horn, and they didn't have Jackson, who's on IR. They knew he was out. Horn never played against either game against Tampa, ironically. Jackson played in the first game when they won 21-3. But these corners for Carolina, to me, Taylor and Henderson, I mean, that essentially cost them. They let the ball get thrown over their head. And against an offense like Tampa, which was struggling to be efficient and effective, especially in the red zone, you give them one-play drives or a one-play score, and they score 20 points in the fourth quarter. You've sealed your fate. And, the Panthers gained 400 yards in the game. They averaged 6.6 a play, and I thought Darnold was really good in the game. I mean, I thought he was really good, except they let the big play, and they let this kind of slip through their fingertips, and it was unfortunate. I don't have any more confidence in the Bucs than I did before the game. They won the game because they were able to get the ball over their head. Think about this, fam. They're 4 for 15 in third down. They had 15 third downs. They only converted 4 of them. If Carolina keeps the ball in front of them, that's up to 19 or 20 third downs. They're not going to win the game.
The big play offense was back for Tampa, and that's something that we've talked about. Hey, they don't make explosive plays. Everything is so difficult. Mike Evans, to your point, 10 catches, 207 yards and 3 touchdowns. This was a breakout game. Evans hadn't caught a touchdown pass since week 4. So this was kind of like his breakout game with those backup corners being in for Carolina. It definitely felt watching the game that this was a very, very big missed opportunity for the Panthers. Now, they wouldn't have been able to clinch because of the game that we'll get to next, but they had a chance to really put the Bucs into some trouble here and win this game. The running game that I thought for the Panthers, that's kind of where they weren't able to be as efficient with Vita Vea back in the lineup for Tampa.
Yeah, but I mean, they threw it better than – if I would have told you Darnold's 23 for 37, he's going to throw for 341, you would have said, okay. Now he fumbles the one ball. That basically, he gives them 7 on that fumble, right? It's 24-21. They get the ball back. They got a chance. And, he gives – they get sacked. The sack fumble created the problems. But to me, I mean, they made up for it. I mean, look, they were effective. And they were moving the ball. I mean, if you're a Buck fan, I mean, do you think if Darnold's throwing for 341 against you, right? What's going to happen when you got to play against a team, that can actually throw the football, right? You're going to be the 4 seed. Now you got Dallas coming to town. Dallas can throw the ball and run it. I mean, I did not. This is 2 weeks in a row. I know Tampa's won. But I haven't left there thinking, oh, my God. Now, Brady, he throws for 432 yards, and, he makes those plays that he had to. But, I mean, when you let Evans beat you over the top, that going in the game, you got to stop him. He can't give up the big play. The route that he runs the best is the 9 route. Make him run the other routes.
How about the end of the game there with about 40 seconds left, the punter, Jake Camarda, for the Buccaneers, after the bad snap, and that's one of the more impressive plays I think I've seen all season. Running to his left, kicks it with his right foot. Now, there was the penalty for the illegal man downfield because the whole operation broke down because of the snap there. But just how impressive was that? Because that probably saved Tampa's season, saved their bacon, because Carolina was about to get the football right there on midfield had he not been able to pull that off.
All the edge guy, Carey, has to do, 27, is just tackle the punter. If he tackles the punter there, they've got a chance. Yeah. They got a chance there. And they're down 6. They got a chance to to win the game by a point. And that kid gets out, breaks contain, and was able to at least punt the ball, and get the ball off without getting it blocked because he's not protected as a punter out there. So you could just go over and just smash him. It's not going to get rough on the punter there. And, I think you're right. That was the play of the game. I think that they were able to make that play and even though Tampa got the ball back with no timeouts and playing on the long field, it was going to be harder. But look, you give up a 63-yard touchdown, a 57-yard touchdown, and a 30-yard touchdown. That's doomed for you.
Tampa, I get that they haven't looked good, but as a Cowboys fan, I'm still a little concerned if the Cowboys end up going to Tampa Bay for that wild card game because Tom Brady, who we've criticized here on the podcast, because like our mantra is, if we see something, we got to say something. He hasn't played well up until yesterday. The 34-45, 432, and 3 touchdowns in big games, he's still the best that's ever done it. Yeah. As a Cowboys fan, I'm scared shitless if I have to go up to Tampa.
Well,
honestly.
he put the team on. He made the plays. But, you got to be fair. I thought Brady was great yesterday. And, nobody loves Brady more than I do. But, they were some easy throws down the field. It wasn't a hard throw to put the guy was wide-ass open. Henderson never got close to him. And Evans isn't – I would not say Evans is like, oh, he's the speed receiver. Like, you should be able to stay foot to foot with Evans. It's going to be a jump ball down the field. You just got to make the play. But he was targeted 12 times. He had 10 catches. And usually, think about that. Godwin was targeted 9 times. He had 9 catches. The running back White was targeted 5 times. He had there was only the tight end, Otten, was the mistargeted guy. Think about that, Femi. Every other receiver that was targeted, other than Evans, other than Otten, and Julio, caught the ball. Every target, they caught it.
It was not good from Carolina in the secondary. So Tampa goes and wins the division. In terms of the playoffs, this is still a team that I don't think we can put on the list of Super Bowl contenders. Maybe they can win a game at home because it's a home playoff game, but I don't think they do much.
Oh, that's your cowboy crap coming in. You're just possum in that. You got to be delighted. Forget. I know Brady's the greatest of all time, but
I've seen too
you
many
got to go play
games.
A team. Sam Darnold just threw for 340 on him. And left yards on the field. The one interception he had, he's got the tight end wide open. If he just didn't throw it far enough, they intercepted on the underthrow. Don't play possum now. Stand up there on that table, stick your chest out, hey, look, we're going to kick their ass. You can't be scared. You can't go in there. Oh, it's Tom Brady. He's going to beat me. I can't. I'm going to bet Tampa just so. You can't do that shit, man. You got to stand on the table. I'm watching the game. They had nobody in their secondary. Diggs could take Evans out of the game. So now the ball's got to go to the ball's got to go to Godwin. Brady's probably never going to throw that tight end ever again. So seriously, and they can't run the ball.
The inability to run the football is a big point that you just brought up there. But I've seen too many Cowboys games, Michael, and when it seems like it's too easy. They find a way to make it a nail-biter. I'm not saying it's easy.
No, wait a minute. Time out. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying that. Okay. But I'm saying the matchup favors you because the Bucs aren't healthy. Now, I'm sure they'll rest everybody when they play Atlanta, right? I'm sure nobody's playing in that game. That's going to be a Blaine Gabbert special. But, but they're not an elite team right now.
No.
They're not.
No. I just worry, it's the Brady has had as much success as anybody has ever had +2 in the playoffs in the NFL.
Worry's different than playing possum, though. You're playing. Oh, I don't know. I don't want to play Tom Brady. I don't want to. Well, come on. You gotta beat. Like Al Davis used to say, at some point, kid, you got to play in the fucking game. You got to beat somebody, right? You're gonna have to. This isn't gonna be okay, I get to play like the Gonzaga. I get to play shitty. Oh, and I got to play in a big game. You got to beat somebody. Iron, banging iron strengthens iron. But if you're going to pick a matchup you want come playoff time, you want against the team that struggles to play pass defense. And without a great pass rush, I think Prescott will throw the ball like crazy on him.
Well, maybe the Cowboys don't even face the Buccaneers because we also saw yesterday the Philadelphia
How's that possible?
Eagles. Well, the Eagles, Michael, they continue to lose. The Eagles have not clinched anything yet, as they're 13-3. We thought this was a foregone conclusion about 3 weeks ago. The Eagles, 1 seed, they might rest week 17 and week 18. The Hurts injury after the Chicago Bears game, they now fall to the New Orleans Saints 20-10. Gardner Minshew really struggled against that New Orleans defense. The Eagles offense just did not have any sort of rhythm in that game. Only 3 plays in the first quarter, as they have now fallen to 13-3, and they need to beat the Giants on Sunday to clinch the number 1 seed and the NFC East. If they lose and the Commanders lose to the Cowboys, then it'll be the Cowboys who win the division, and it'll be Philly that's going down to Tampa.
Well, I mean, first of all right, let's put it like I thought this game would have meant the Giants would have played their guys to get into the playoffs, and the Eagles would have conceded the game. Now we're the other way around. Now we're going to get Tyrod Taylor, and the Giants are in. They're just going to rest up, right? They know they're in. They're going to rest their guys. Barkley's not going to play. Not that they have a lot of great players, but credit the Giants for being able to stay resourceful, finding ways to win, do things that the Washington Commodores couldn't do, right? Credit them for that.
Yep.
But so the Eagles are going to kind of walk in, whether they cover the line's at 14.5 already.
It's crazy.
It's at 14.5. So like the Eagles will probably play their guys for a half, and then we'll have a preseason game in the second half. And I'm sure Daboll's just going to want to run the clock and run the clock and run the clock. I don't think that's going to be an issue. So I do think they're going to get in. I think the bigger issue is what we saw on Sunday at Financial Field, at Link Financial Field, because Dennis Allen did a really good job of taking away what the Eagles wanted to do. They put pressure on Minshew. He didn't really have a clean pocket to step in and drive the ball. It was hard for him. They didn't run the ball, and then they were able to make plays. The first drive of the game, they took about 8 minutes off the clock, went right down the field. They converted some third downs. They were able to run the ball. They mixed and matched, and they got the lead. And this Eagle offense, without Lane Johnson at right tackle, became a liability. So I have another cousin who's an Eagle fan, right? She works. Now I'm starting to I get texts from her the first drive of the game. Like, she's in a panic. Now, she's a complete devoted. Marianne's a complete fan. Okay, complete. She's not like Big Daddy. She's not complaining, but she's completely invested in this. But like now they're starting to. Did you watch the game?
Mm-hmm. I heard the boos.
Did you hear the boos?
I heard the boos. It was like after the first series.
I mean, how can they start booing after that? Like, I mean, you're booing this team? Like, this is what drives me crazy about, like, Big Daddy particularly. Like, Big Daddy thinks the game should just be easy. The Packers should win 45-0. Like, they're all hard. They're all hard. Like, every game's hard. Like, it's not going to be easy. You're going to have some shitty plays.
It's funny because we've missed these Eagles fans this entire season because everything's been so easy for them that they haven't been the vitriol hasn't been there, the intensity. They've been so happy and everything is fly Eagles fly and we're gonna march all the way to the Super Bowl. But now the Eagles fans, after these 2 weeks, they're starting to come out and the anger is there. It's the pent-up energy. You brought up Lane Johnson, though, Michael. This nugget from Jimmy Kempski, who works over there in the Philly area covering this Eagles team. He said since 2016, the Eagles are now 9-22 when Lane Johnson is out of the lineup. So like a lot obviously has been made about Hurts being injured, and Hurts is their most valuable player. He's the quarterback. He means the most. But I thought the Lane Johnson injury, and we detailed it on Thursday, but I thought in terms of the national media and everybody discussing this game, people just kind of swept that under the rug. And that was one of the reasons why I bet New Orleans +7, because I thought, hey, with him out and Hurts out, Saints can kind of muddy this game up and keep it close. I thought Lane Johnson's absence was felt yesterday.
Yeah, it was. And in spite of all of it, right? In spite of all of it, the Eagles are sitting there down 13-10 with 6 minutes to go in the game. And I don't know what A.J. Brown was doing, but he ran like, I don't know what route. I think whether it was a miscommunication between him and Minshew, but he didn't really run a route. He kind of just walked off. Did you see it? Yep. He just walked off the line, and Lattimore just jumped in front of him and put the game away. So, like, and I think the bigger issue here is that this Saint offense only threw 4 incomplete passes the whole day.
Yeah.
Like, if you're an Eagle fan, last year when they played the good quarterbacks, when they played Mahomes, when they played Dak, when they played Herbert, right? When they played Brady twice, when they played good quarterbacks, there were 6 total. When they and Derek Carr, when they played 6 quarterbacks last year, the ball was only on the ground 36 times. And this has got to worry you. Like, everybody thinks, Bradbury should have gone to the Pro Bowl. Did you watch Bradbury get smoked? I mean, if he has to play man-to-man, it's over. Like, it's over. Like, there's no chance he's playing man-to-man out there against any good receiver. So they got to protect him. And their rush was dominant. I mean, they were getting after Dalton, And this could have been worse if Dalton doesn't do what Dalton typically does, which is throw an interception down by the red zone. Or else they're going to go in at halftime at least up 16-0.
We've talked about this Jonathan Gannon coordinated defense. It's a concern. And we saw it last week in the game against the Cowboys. Dak was absolutely tearing them to pieces. They were shredded. CeeDee Lamb had a career day. Do you think that this Eagles defense, as currently constructed and with Gannon as the defensive coordinator, are they good enough to win a Super Bowl?
I think it's harder. Look, they miss Maddox, the inside slot corner, right? I mean, they really miss him. I mean, he gives them a guy that they can go. Now, they need Gardner Johnson back, too. And I think he might have played last night.
No, he didn't play yesterday. So
he didn't play. He's still on IR.
It's still touch and go for him, yeah.
So they need him back. I mean, see, what's happened to Philly is some of these injuries are starting to affect them, right? So, like Maddox was not active. Lane was not. I mean, they're keeping Lane up. And even though they get pressure on the quarterback, I think they sacked him like 4 times. I mean, he had a ton of pressure, but they struggled, A, to stop the run, and B, they struggled to really get the ball on the ground. I mean, Kamara didn't have the best day, but he averaged 5. But Kamara was at 16 carries for 4.6. I mean, so, and Taysom Hill throws 2 passes for 24 yards, so he's 2 for 2. Now, they got sacked 7 times in the game. Think about that. 7 times they were sacked, and they still won the game. But the Eagles were sacked 6 times.
Yep. Yeah, that Saints front is still really good.
I mean, look, there on one hand, and we'll get to it in the next block. On one hand, San Francisco's defense might look vulnerable. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, San Francisco's offense is going to be able to move the ball if they play Philly. That is not going to be something that Philly's just going to stop them. San Francisco will move the ball. San Francisco can move the ball on anybody, even with Purdy at quarterback.
It's a really good offense, that Niners offense that they have out there. Last point, though, on the Eagles, I'm sure they were hoping to rest those guys, anybody who has nicks and bruises. I mean, they lose Josh Sweat. Hopefully Josh Sweat is able to recover. They said it was a neck injury. He was taken to the local hospital there. Hopefully he's able to recover just from his health standpoint, not even football related. But gosh, now having to play this Week 18 game when you thought you could rest. Now, if they win, they'll get the bye week to get everybody healthy. But I think they kind of wanted to squeeze in 2 weeks, just given that Hurts and Lane Johnson and Gardner Johnson, like they're losing all these impactful players. I mean, knock on wood if any other impactful players were to get hurt for this team, but it's kind of a tough spot now that they need to play this game.
I think it's a blessing in disguise, Femi. And here's why.
Okay.
I think the Eagles, in that game, I thought the Saints' pad level, their physicality was better than Philly. I know Philly sacked the quarterback 6 times, but I thought the defensive line for the Saints, and not just over on the left side of their defensive front, the Eagle right, I thought that they were really more physical than the Eagle offensive line. And I think that as we get away from wearing pads and we start to do less football and more walkthroughs, that you'd have a tendency where your pad level rises and your fundamentals start to go by the wayside and you lose a little bit of that edge. Everybody talks about rest, but rest is not good if you're not working on the fundamentals and practicing football. Like, it doesn't do you really any good. And I think it showed up a little bit yesterday. So I think it really kind of helps Philly to play this game seriously, go in there and play it for 3 quarters as serious as you can, get the win, and then have the week off and then come back. So now you're on a more normal schedule. Because I think, to me, all this kind of, we don't really need to win, I think it showed up last week in Dallas, and I think it really showed up against the Saints.
Yeah, well, now they're going to get their edge back, definitely. It sounds like Jalen Hurts should be back for this game. The report came out Sunday morning that if they needed the win on Sunday in Week 18, that he should be able to play with that shoulder sprain. But speaking of having an edge, Michael, the Green Bay Packers, my goodness, they absolutely ran Minnesota off the field at Lambeau Field. Before the game even started, Green Bay knew that 2 wins and they are in the playoffs because everything is broken right for Big Daddy and his squad. What were the text messages like? Were they happy text messages? They weren't even happy?
Now he's taking credit. Now I got to read you this. Now he's taking credit. He's taking credit for Joe Barry. I said this to him. I said, it was this is at the end now, a nice win. Barry must be paying attention to the criticism about his defensive scheme because he played a completely different scheme today. I said, yes, he knows you're onto him. That's no joke, he says. Plenty of people are onto him. He knows he's on shaky ground. Come on. I mean, he takes credit for it. I mean, Big Daddy, Packer fans, thank Big Daddy. Please thank him because he's responsible for this. I said, oh, this is the best. He was so pissed off after the last game when LaFuck gave Joe Barry a hug after beating Miami. He was so pissed off about that. So anyway, so he has. I said, you're going to the playoffs, Big Daddy. He says, Minnesota has been known to come back, and LaFuck's reputation speaks for itself. I mean, so this is like in the second quarter. He thinks he's going to still lose the game.
They're up 14-3.
So how about this line? He said, if the defense holds up, maybe some desperate team hires Barry as their head coach. Then he's on now he starts picking on Tony Romo. Romo, if you can run the ball, you can win playoff games. He's brilliant. I mean, Big Daddy, there's no end to what he can get to.
Nobody was safe yesterday.
No.
I thought it was going to be a happy New Year.
No, there's no happiness in that. There's no happiness. He'll be like, oh, my God. I mean, I don't know. I got him coming over for New Year's dinner tonight because today's actually, right? So I'll get so maybe next week I'll get him to come over because Mickey plays, the Raiders play Saturday. So, maybe I'll get him to come over and watch the Detroit game on the ticket, so he can relax and watch. He doesn't have to watch the Eagles.
that would be fantastic. We're going to need a full report from that. But the Packers, though, get the win 41-17. And it was all phases. Like we said, I mean, they get a special teams touchdown with Keyshawn Nixon, who, my goodness, he's turned himself into probably the best kick returner in the NFL.
Wow.
Then they get the pick six there with Darnell Savage on the interception return for a touchdown. And then after that, then the offense can kind of control the game. They completely shut down this Vikings offense. I'm not sure if it was the surface out there at Lambeau Field and the temperature, but it wasn't even that cold. But Minnesota just couldn't get anything going there.
I mean, the weather wasn't a factor in the game. And,
No.
I mean, look, the thing that's funny about Cousins this year, I know he made the Pro Bowl. I thought Goff should have gone to the Pro Bowl. But to me, Cousins played better. I mean, I know they've won 12 games, right? I get that. But when you look at Cousins' numbers this year compared to where he was last year, he played better last year. His numbers are much better last year. He's doubled his interception percentage this year. Doubled it, right? He hasn't thrown as many touchdown passes as he threw last year, right? And his completion percentage is slightly lower. Now, he's throwing the ball way more. He's got 623 attempts after 16 games. Last year, he only had 561, right? So, and last year, he averaged 7.5 yards per attempt. This year, he's down to 6.9. So it's kind of remarkable. He goes to the Pro Bowl, and when you really break down his numbers, he was better last year. I had him, in the top 10. He was a better quarterback. His QBR rating is lower, and his general rating is 12 points lower. Wow. And so for me, it's like, people say, well, Cousins caught. Now, I think Cousins isn't playing nearly as good as he did last year. Now, they're overcoming him. I mean, think about it. I mean, think about what they've been able to do. I said this on the show. I think if you want to get lucky, wear purple. I mean, wear purple. I mean, because – look, TCU might be the luck. They deserve to go there. I disagree with your tweet that they were dominating the Michigan game. I completely disagree with that. Michigan was giving them the game. Michigan gave, and of course the referees made a nice call for no touchdown, which I don't know how that wasn't a touchdown.
Yeah, that was weird.
But that's a whole other situation. Michigan beat Michigan, and TCU deserves a ton of credit. But that purple helps you win now. I'm just telling you, if you wear purple, you should start wearing purple. I'm going to start wearing purple. Purple's a lucky color.
Honestly, yeah. Whenever the Cowboys play that playoff game, I'm having my purple shirt on.
You better put a purple shirt on. That's what it's the resurrection color, right? Isn't it? And we were taught that in the Catholic Church. He is risen. You wear shirt, you wear purple.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe Cousins will rise again.
Yeah.
But I mean, to me, they have to be. I don't know. I can't remember that much. They have to be one of the worst 12-win teams I've ever seen because every team leaves there knowing they're better than them.
Mm-hmm. To your point, they have the absolute worst point differential of any team with 12-plus wins since the merger. Now, the other contenders were the 1985 Raiders were plus 46, the 1991 Lions were plus 44, the 2016 Raiders were plus 31. The 2022 Vikings have a negative 19-point differential. Negative 19. They've only lost 4 times. When they lose, they make it count. They get everything.
They go off. They think about who they lose to, right? Mm-hmm. Think about who they lose to, right? So they lose to Goff, who threw the ball really well. They lose to Prescott. He threw the ball really well. They lose to Rodgers. They lose to people that can really throw the ball. Now, they beat Buffalo, which that again, to me, that's a joke, right?
It's miracle on ice.
That's one of the all-timers, right? I'm going to lose to Russo over that game in my betting contest because I had Buffalo and I lose that game, and I'm one game behind. So, like, seriously, going into the weekend, I'm one game behind, and that's the game. So
that's ridiculous.
Like they're that color purple really is, but I don't see it. I mean, look, as you said before we start, they're a point favorite against Chicago, who hasn't won since October Monday night.
Yeah, a 1-point favorite on the road.
And I promise you, I bet you the money's going to be on Chicago.
Is Chicago going to close a favorite?
I wouldn't be surprised because I think Minnesota's probably going to say, "Look, we'll take the 3rd seed. We'll take that." And here's if they're the 3rd seed and the Giants are the 6th seed. The Giants, that was a 5.5 point. The Giants were 5.5 point dogs going into Minneapolis that day. They lost. They covered. That line will be under 3.
That would be a very interesting rematch. And the fact that we just saw that game and the Giants looked like the better team. They just made some critical mistakes there. There was the interception, and I think it was Richie James who dropped. Either it was Richie James or Darius Slayton.
Inside slant.
They dropped the inside slant. That changes that game. That would be a really fascinating playoff game if we do end up getting that one. I think that might be the favorite outcome, actually, now that San Fran is in the driver's seat for the 2 seed. But yeah, this Vikings team, they have a lot of issues, and I know Vikings fans, they don't want to hear it, and we've been honest about this team all season long despite the wins. They have problems. They're not nearly as good as their record indicates.
Not nearly as good. And look, they deserve their record, but they have to be honest with it. When they play against good quarterbacks, they're going to struggle, and it happens, and every game is going to be a close game. And when they play against good quarterbacks, they can't keep pace. So, San Francisco's got Arizona this week, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, the best thing that happened to San Francisco, and we'll talk about in the next block, is they got smoked. They gave up 7.1 yards per play yesterday. Yeah. I mean, like, their defense is going to be on red alert just to get the 2 seed.
I'm fascinated.
And I think you want the 2 seed because predicated on who's going to be the 7th seed, you're going to get that win.
Well, could be the Green Bay Packers who won that game 41-17. There's starting to be a little bit of Packers buzz. We'll discuss that game on Thursday when we get there and the Packers' chances if they do get to the playoffs. But some people think that this Packers team, now that they've won 4 straight, could potentially be a team that makes some noise in the playoffs. I'm not quite sure if I'm there yet.
I'm not sold on that.
Yeah, I'm not sold either.
Either is Big Daddy, for the record.
Yeah, we knew that. Let's take our first break, though, Michael, and we will get to Sunday Night Football's physical matchup between the Steelers and the Ravens. All right, Michael, let's get to Sunday Night Football, and I think I have to issue an apology to the NFL and the folks over at NBC because I was critical of them picking this game, Steelers-Ravens, as the Sunday Night Football game. And in my defense, had the Dolphins won in Foxborough, the Steelers would have been eliminated, so it wouldn't have been as intense, I think. But, boy, that did not happen.
Yeah, it would have been. Those 2 uniforms, it's like Michigan-Ohio State. Like, those uniforms bring out intensity. It has nothing to do with the records. It has everything to do with, the matchups and, as Mike Tomlin told them, the dance partners. It has everything to do with the dance. I love that line. Everything to do with the dance partner.
How great is Tomlin? I think after the game, and we'll get into the Steelers win 16-13, and Mike Tirico gave the nugget that Tomlin told them in the pre-production meeting that we don't die, we multiply. I mean, Tomlin is just filled with all sorts of great quotes.
He's so good. I mean, people don't realize how smart he is. I mean, he's so freaking smart. I mean, the pride of William and Mary. I mean, think about it. I mean, this guy, you talk about a guy that could hit the Washington Speakers Bureau and just dominate. I mean, he's forget about it. He could go out there and give speeches at 100K a clip. I mean, this guy's remarkable because he's so inspiring and he's able to draw. He instantly takes you with that dance partner line or we multiply line. He frames it perfectly so that you visualize what he's exactly talking about. And I think what he showed this year more than ever is he's improved his team. That offensive line, which started out really shitty, has really gotten better. And the offense, which started out really shitty, has gotten a lot better. Like, I was surprised that they were a dog in this game. Because if you watch the first game, they had a field goal block, they had 3 turnovers. Trubisky played really good. He played really good. But he had the 3 bad turnovers. That was the bad part, right? And Baltimore couldn't do anything on offense. At some point, when are we going to have a 30 for 30 documentary on Baltimore's offense? Like, seriously, at what point is somebody going to stand up and say, fellas, you can't run this offense and win any big games? Like, when is somebody going to do that?
Well, Greg Roman says they just have to execute. Did you hear him?
Well, that's what every coach says. Like, that's what Bill Walsh used to drive Walsh crazy. Just blame the players because they can't execute. It looks good on a blackboard, but blame the players. Like, you have no passing game. You have zero passing. You haven't had a passing game for 4 years. Like, I don't know how John Harbaugh, we all talk about Harbaugh as a great coach. He is. He's done a great job. But at some point, he's got to recognize that offense sucks. Like, I'm sitting in my chair. I know it stinks. Every defensive coach wants to play against it. Like, it's terrible. And even if they bring Lamar back, it's still not any good. Like, people keep thinking Lamar's going to come back and it's going to rescue their season. Look, Lamar wasn't playing good within this shitty offense. Like, the offense sucks. It doesn't go together. They got little receivers. Oh, I heard Chris on the broadcast. I had to have the sound on. Chris on the broadcast. Well, Deshaun Jackson, they're fearful of him. Nobody's scared of Deshaun Jackson. Who gives a shit about him? Nobody cares. Like, are you kidding me? If you're leading with Deshaun Jackson as your best receiver, you got real issues. Now, I know Bateman's hurt, and I know Duvernay's hurt, but you got to be kidding me.
He said, I think it was on the final drive of the game, he said, watch out for Deshaun Jackson. And then Deshaun Jackson, literally the next play, is limping off the field. I don't want to make fun of the guy for getting hurt, but I mean, we know Deshaun Jackson, at his old age, we don't need to watch out for Deshaun Jackson.
I felt like I was on the boat. You haven't gotten to this season. I felt like I was on the boat with Paulie, and Paulie's in a remember when conversation. Remember when Deshaun Jackson was good? And Tony looks at him and wants to kill him. Almost kills him on the boat. It's like, holy shit. Like, some of these lines are, like, unbelievable.
It's ridiculous.
Like the tight end runs an out route, and he says, oh, my God, you can't cover that out route. Well, yeah, you can't. You can't cover it when the corner's playing inside technique and he runs an out route. Like remember when we were kids and we played in the schoolyard? Mm-hmm. If a guy played you inside, you went out. If he played you outside, you went in. Same thing in pro football. They really don't change. Like, what a great route. I mean, come on. Would we stop with this shit?
I guess it makes it entertaining, but it doesn't
make it entertaining. It makes it horrible. We break down every play instead of breaking down the game. We break down every play instead of breaking down the game. Like, why don't we talk about the game? Why don't we talk about, hey, Baltimore's got 13. They're going to need to get to 20 to win this game. Baltimore needs to do this. They need to do that. Like, listen to Hubie Brown break down a basketball game. He coaches both teams. That's what people want to hear. They don't want to hear about, oh, this guy ran a slot or, predict the next play. Talk about the game.
And it was a good game. Despite the low scoring affair, I mean, it was a really good game, I thought, because it was classic Steelers-Ravens.
Well, when they returned that kick, I mean, I don't know if maybe I missed it, but when they returned that kick and they get the ball there, at that point you got to say to yourself, hey, look, you got to win the game here. Baltimore has to win the game here. These are going to be the three most critical plays. If you're John Harbaugh, you go to Roman and say, Craig, we gotta get points here. Okay, so put together your 5 best plays. We cannot make mistakes here before you send the team out on the field. Like, we got to make these plays. Here's where we're going to win the game. And if you don't do that, I mean, like seriously, like, set the stage for the viewer. Make them understand what's at stake here. And so what happens? Of course, Baltimore gets the ball at the Pittsburgh 40. They punt. They don't get points there. They go backwards for 2 yards. Pittsburgh gets the ball back. They can't do anything with it, right? Then Baltimore's got 6:32 to go in the game. And again, they have a chance to put the game away. They have the ball at their own 36. They have a chance to put the game away. They go 3 and out. And then here's Baltimore, another fourth quarter collapse, but it's really not. Yeah. Everybody blames the defensive coordinator. Well, he gave up points in the fourth quarter. Here's Baltimore's fourth quarter. Can I give it to you, Fem?
Yep.
3 plays punt, 5 plays interception. Their whole second half, their entire second half of offense, okay? First of all, they only had the ball. Basically, they only had the ball for 3 possessions in the first half. Mm-hmm. Okay, in those 3 possessions, they ran 29 plays. In the second half, they ran 24 plays total. So they had 12 plays in the third quarter. They ran an 8-play drive. They get a field goal. Then they go 4 plays, 25 yards. They got a punt. And then they come out with their 3-3-3. And Pittsburgh controls the ball in the second half, 17 minutes to 12. I mean, so, like, I didn't think this, like, the game says it's close and Pittsburgh needed the last second, but to me, Pittsburgh, they had every opportunity. The only reason the game was close because of the red zone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you break it down, Pittsburgh's 1 for 3 in the red zone, 0 for 1 on goal to go.
The Steelers, they ran 70 plays.
Steelers are the better
game.
team.
They're the better team.
Steelers
100%.
are the better team.
Yeah. Well, we said it on Thursday. I think we both said that the Steelers are going to win. I think going into that game, I fully believe the Steelers were going to beat the Ravens because they've been playing better than what Baltimore's been doing over this past month here. 351 yards of total offense for the Steelers to the Ravens 240.
How much longer are they going to tolerate this? I like Greg Roman. I'm not trying to get Greg Roman fired. He's from Ventnor. He's ready. But at some point, this offense has no passing game.
Yeah, it's stale.
And none of the play action is tied to the passing game. But you can't win in this league. You're not going to win 13-10. I know Huntley's out there, but even when Huntley's not out there, think about it. Let's go back to it. If you go to the scores, look at it. They can't score.
Yeah. Think about the game that they played against Carolina. They were barely able
Carolina
to move the
had
football.
a chance in that game.
Yeah,
Carolina had a chance.
Yeah.
Carolina had a chance. They lose. Then that was Lamar played.
Yep, that was Lamar.
Then they go down to Jacksonville. Lamar played. They were able to make some plays. They lose that game. Then Lamar gets hurt against Denver. It's 10-9, 16-14. They're lucky to win that game. 13-3. They beat Atlanta. Look, you can say whatever the hell you want. If you were on Atlanta and you took Atlanta and the points and you lost, you just got screwed because Atlanta was just bad in the red zone.
That's what
what's keeping Baltimore alive is they're the second best red zone team in football.
Yeah, and their defense has actually been quite improved, I think, over the second half of the season. I don't think this is on the defense that you can blame them. I think this is squarely on that offense. In terms of the Pittsburgh side of things, Kenny Pickett came up with that drive at the end. I thought he was really stellar in that drive, making some movement plays off structure, especially the touchdown pass to Najee Harris. Harris had 22 carries, 111 yards on the ground. It feels like this Pittsburgh team is starting to come together and really know what it wants to do on both sides of the ball. However, they still need a little bit of help to get into the playoffs. If they were able to get to the postseason, Michael, do you think that this Pittsburgh team can put up a fight against a Kansas City or a Buffalo or a Cincinnati if they have to play them in the wild card game?
I think that, mentally they can. I think by the 50-minute mark, they'll wear down. I don't think they have enough, but they've got skill players. Look, Pickens is hard to cover. Johnson's really good. Freiermuth, we have him as a red chip player. We said he was good. He is really good. And this offensive line has gotten better, so I think they definitely can. Think about this. If you're a Baltimore fan, Baltimore allows in the last 3 weeks, it just seems like on the tape in the last 3 weeks, right? So after the bye week, nobody could run the ball on Baltimore. They went 36 against Carolina, 38 against Jacksonville, 88 against Denver. Denver couldn't run it. Pittsburgh in the first game couldn't run it, 65. The last 3 weeks, okay, they gave up 143, 115, and yesterday they gave up 198. Now, nobody mentioned that Calais Campbell wasn't in the game yesterday. Did you hear anybody talk about that?
No.
Of course not. Why would we talk about that? That's a significant injury. Calais Campbell's not in the game. Don't you think that's kind of important to their run fits and their physicality up front?
Just a little bit.
Of course it's not mentioned. Why would we talk about it? We could go. It's better we'll go to see the three of them, Maria and all them at halftime and talk. Everybody smiles and talk, and we go to that. That's always enjoyable.
Your boy, the Clapper's on there, man. He's
unbelievable.
He's giving us the halftime update. But yeah, Baltimore, they're in the postseason, regardless what happens in Week 18. They're 10-6 right now, but they're not trending well.
Do you think Lamar's coming back? You think Lamar's going to play this week?
I think we've seen the last of Lamar this season. I think they'll eventually work out a contract or whatever. He'll be the Ravens quarterback. But in terms of this season, I think we've seen the last of him.
Yeah, look, he hasn't practiced. He hasn't even been on the field.
Yeah. There's nowhere to be seen.
Nowhere to be seen. And if he doesn't have movement, if he doesn't have that ability to run the ball, Huntley had to carry it 7 times last night, right? So part of their 28 carries, you get the quarterback's going to get 10, 12 of them. That's what to make that offense run. If Lamar can't go, if he doesn't have his quickness or his explosiveness,
it's over.
There's no passing game.
Yeah.
Think about this. The electrifying Deshaun Jackson had 1 catch for 9 yards.
Gotta watch out.
Robinson had 1 catch for 9 yards. They're the only 2 receivers that got balls. The two tight ends, Andrews and Likely, they're the only ones who got. I mean, this is what I've been saying. Everything's in the middle of. They can't throw it outside. They have no passing game.
It's really bad, and I think it's going to be Huntley Week 18 against Cincinnati. We'll see what happens tonight, but that game could be for the AFC North title in Cincinnati. And then beyond that, in the playoff game, whether they're hosting or they're away, I think it's going to be Tyler Huntley that's starting, and we'll see if this Ravens team can figure it out. I have severe doubts that they can, but
I don't know how they made a change from Martindale and left the offense alone. Like, I know they didn't play good defense last year. I know that. I get that. But, like, there was a lot to that. And maybe Martindale, you didn't get along with him. I don't know all the details on that, but that's none of my business. But to me, to not at least look at this offense and say, man, we got it. Like, for us to win, like, that's what great head coaches do. They see where they have to get the team to in order to win. Like Kyle Shanahan, when he goes and tells D'Amico Ryans, we've got to play more a different style, a different way than just our cover 3 match. We got to change up some things. We got to, that's okay. That's a head coach's job, to see what lies distantly in the future. Not to just, how are you watching this? Like, I don't even give a shit. You say, well, it's Raven football. Like, to me, that's not winning football. If you want to call it Raven football, go ahead, call it that. But this is not winning football.
Yeah, Harbaugh, he stood by Greg Roman, and maybe there's a loyalty and a friendship there. I don't know what their relationship is like. It must be good since Roman is still there, but it's not getting it done, and it just feels stale. Their offense, it feels stale. The defense is
there's no passing game.
There's no
the Brownies shut him down with 3 points. I mean, there's no easy throws. And you could say, well, they're playing with their backup quarterback. Okay, the Raiders play with their backup quarterback. They had 500 yards against the best defense in football. Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, if Stidham would have thrown for 500 yards against the Lions or 300 yards, I would have said, okay, but the best defense in football, like at some point, you're getting your backup quarterback ready to play. You know what he can do. Well, you got to have a passing game.
Let's get into that game, Michael, because it was an electric one here in Vegas. The Niners beat the Raiders 37-34 in overtime. Jarrett Stidham making the start for a bench Derek Carr. Stidham 23 of 34, 365 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Devontae Adams was just ridiculously good. I mean, that guy is a top 10 football player in the league, maybe a top 5. He is just amazing what he's able to do. But the Niners pull it out as they fail to cover but win the game in OT. But man, I thought we started to see a little bit of some cracks in the armor of that Niners defense.
Yeah, but I think, to me, if I think what they got out of Stidham was they had a really good game plan. They didn't give up a sack in the game, and the play that killed them was the left tackle Colton Miller gets pushed back and Bosa, and Stidham throws the bad interception. I mean, he has 2 interceptions in the game. One the ball gets tipped up in the air. They average 7.6 yards per play. Think about that, Femi. They average 7.6 per play. And what I thought the difference in the game was between what Stidham did and what Carr hadn't done is give the receivers a chance to make a play. He throws the ball down the seam. So whenever there's a receiver being covered, right, and if the defensive back is turned, it's called a non-aggressive player, a nap, right? And so a quarterback is taught to throw the ball when he sees a nap player one-on-one. So when you're covered, you're open, okay? Mm-hmm. When you're covered, you're open. And when a guy like Waller, who's 6'6", is being covered by a smaller guy, throw the ball up there and he'll make the play. He did. Stidham gave him a chance. The Adams incredible catch. That was an incredible catch. Like, he gave him a chance to make a play on the ball. Right? He gave him a chance to make a play on the ball. And look, I'm not saying Stidham's their future. Now, remember, I don't know if you know much about Stidham, but Stidham is from Stevensville, Texas. Mm-hmm. And he's a 5-star kid coming out of high school. And Gussie Malzahn gets him to go to Auburn. Why the kid went to go play for Gussie in that passing game, I have no idea. I have no idea. All right. Then he transfers back to Baylor, and he plays for Art Briles, and he's really a good player. He gets drafted by New England in the 3rd round. And I think the people in New England felt like we might have something here. But then he started getting hurt, and he couldn't stay healthy. And he kind of never really, when he had opportunities, he never was comfortable. And so now he's been with New England with Josh and the program out there, and he was comfortable. So I'm watching that game, and I'm thinking, they're making Stidham look good. I mean, and then I watched the New England game before and how bad Mac looked in that game. Like, at some point, we can blame the players, but also go back to what Walsh said. Very few people can coach the quarterback, and even fewer can evaluate him. Like, I thought you saw a really good coaching job by McDaniels. And all this bullshit, I know my son's there and I'm defending him, but to me, I think you as a fan and out of it, like all this bullshit that the locker room was unhappy with the car. Did you sense that they were unhappy with the car demotion, how they played yesterday?
Didn't seem like it.
I'll wait for an answer.
I thought Adams might have his best game of the season, and that's his best friend. I don't think that they were unhappy.
I mean, why can't we just be objective? Like, look, Derek Carr's a great kid, but he wasn't throwing the ball. His completion percentage over expected completion percentage ranked. He was next to Carson Wentz. So, like, if you just execute and then this is the best defense in football.
So why is that? Did Carr not have belief in the system? Because Stidham has been in the system, like you talked about. He's been in it with New England. He's been under McDaniels. I would venture to guess maybe he has a better understanding of the system than Derek Carr does. Did Carr just not believe in the system? Because why didn't we see these kind of moments for Carr under McDaniels?
I think in talking to people that were there before, and I know a lot of people that were there before, that the thing that drove Gruden crazy. And obviously I don't talk to Gruden, but the thing that drove Gruden crazy was when the play broke down, Carr couldn't make a play. Mm-hmm. It drove Gruden crazy. Like, if he gets out there, nothing good happened after a broken play. And I think you saw that this year. Like, if the play breaks down, it is. And one of the things that quarterbacks have to do, and we see this with Russell Wilson, quarterbacks have to climb the pocket, right? Mm-hmm. When quarterbacks don't climb the pocket, and they don't take that track up north or south, however you want to view it, to build to throw it, then, and they're looking to go right or looking to go left, they don't want to get hit. Like the throw he makes to Devontae Adams on the loose play, he got the shit kicked out of him. I thought it should have been a person. I thought it should have been rough for the passer, but the kid didn't land on him. He kind of tilted his body, but he got to stay in there and make that throw. I thought Stidham played tougher than Carr played. I think that's just, to me, he looked like he played tougher. He worked the pocket better. He was patient and made the throws he needed to make and gave the receivers a chance. And look, it's not going to be perfect all the time, but when you're able to do that and you follow the offense, you got a better chance. I mean, they're going to run plays for you to be, and if you watch the tape, unlike our guy from ESPN, if you watch the tape, there's plays on that tape that they didn't execute, that they didn't throw the ball to. Like, so you could say, oh, this is a raw deal for Carr. If you watch the games, if you watch the tapes, there's a ton of them. I can go through them all.
Well, it was a pretty good showing for this Raiders offense, given that they have a top 12 player sitting at home. On the other side, though.
I mean, what does that make? What does that make Stidham? He's going to be a free agent, right? What does that make Stidham? Now, I know it's one game. He could come out and shit down his leg next week. I get that, but like, I mean, think about the Mike White euphoria that was going on around the league. I mean,
we'll get to that.
This is against the best defense in football. Now, I know he has Devontae Adams, but still, I mean, the guy made a ton of plays, and he made plays with his feet, and he bought time. Like, I mean, if you're the Raiders, you say, hey, I hope he can play good next week against the Chiefs. We got man defense, But I don't think you can confuse Stidham as like, okay, he has no talent. Like, this isn't Taylor Heineke.
No.
Like, this is a 5-star kid coming out of high school. Like, he has talent. Now, does he have toughness? Can he do it another week? Those are all questions, the legitimate ones.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. Like he has pedigree. At some point, somebody thought that he was going to be a big-time quarterback. So maybe there's something to tap into for the Raiders. The Niners, though, defensively a little bit shaky, giving up 500 yards. Offensively, though, with Purdy and that team, I mean, Purdy, he sometimes he's living right with some of the decisions that he makes there. But he has 284 yards, 2 passing touchdowns. McCaffrey was awesome once again on the ground, through the air. Brandon Ayuk has emerged as a big-time talent at wide receiver, 9 catches, 101 and a TD. This offense was humming yesterday.
Yeah, it really was. And, the Raiders, without Chandler Jones, I mean, now Crosby gets double-teamed almost on every snap. He had one quarterback hit the whole day. And they're playing guys out there, I don't even know, Masterson, Harvey Langley. I mean, there's nobody on the Raider defense. And, obviously they've got a bunch of guys on IR, and they really can't cover anybody. So, but McCaffrey was sensational. I thought that that they were able to. I mean, they only had 8. Think about this. They ran 62 plays. They only were in third down 8 times. The Raiders were only in third down 10 times. They're only in third down 10 times. I mean, see, to me, this is what was driving me crazy with the Michigan TCU game. I thought Michigan's play calling on second down was atrocious. Like, get the first down and 2 downs. Don't screw around with this shit. Just get it. Like, don't run the read option. Oh, let's run a read option again. Like, let's get first downs here. And when you have 8 first downs or third downs or 10, you have a much better chance. That's what kills the Patriots a lot. I mean, they run the ball on first down, or they get 4 yards, and they get 2 yards, and now they're in third and 4, and they convert maybe 4 out of 10. Well, that means 6 times you're punting the ball back to the opponent. Well, this third and manageable bullshit that the announcers feed you is the biggest crock of shit you could ever imagine. Third and manageable. What does that mean? If you're great on third down at 42%, that means you're punting the ball back to them 6 out of 10 times.
You just want to get in third and manageable, 3rd and 4, 3rd
What
and 5.
the fuck is third and manageable? Like, how about if we get first? How about if we play Canadian football and get first downs and 2 downs?
Yeah,
let's just do that.
I like first and manageable a little bit better than third.
Yeah, okay, I get it. Okay, we have a bad play on first down, but to get to third and manageable, like, what does that mean? Like, we're going to punt it?
Yeah, it's all very ridiculous. You mentioned the New England Patriots. They beat the Miami Dolphins yesterday, 23-21. This was the game that pissed me off, Michael, because I laid 2.5 with the Patriots. Nick Folk, for now the second week in a row. This guy, man, I don't know. I didn't bet them against Cincinnati, so I didn't feel that pain for the people who had the +3.5 or the +4. He misses the extra point, and they end up losing the game by 4. Probably should have been a 3-point loss, but I bet this week it should have been a 3-point victory. Unfortunately, Skylar Thompson backdoor cover as the Patriots, though, get a big-time win, more importantly, to keep their playoff hopes alive in the AFC.
I mean, think about this. I feel bad for Teddy Bridgewater. Like, this is the second time Teddy started. He can't finish the game. Yeah,
that's bad.
I mean, that's not a good sign, And this 5-game losing streak, like, they ran the ball. They threw it. This is a 1-score game for most of the game, right? They threw it 40 times. Like, they threw it 40 times. Now, they were having a hard time. But my point here on making this comment is you hired McDaniel because he's a run game guru, right? And you can't run the ball. Like, you can't go on the road and expect to win the game throwing it 40 times. You just can't. It's hard, especially when your left tackle Armstead's not going to play. I mean, nobody's talked about this, but Chubb's impact on Miami based on that trade, have you heard? I mean, Chubb was inactive yesterday. He's injured again. Like, at what point does that, like, oh, wait a minute, that doesn't look so good?
It's the trade and the extension, and there's a chance that you don't even make the playoffs. So you give up that capital. And
I mean, look, the Patriots only had 14 first downs in the entire game, right? And but their defense made the play of the game. And like you said, the last touchdown, it became an onside kick game, so it really didn't matter. But, to me, the play of the game was they turned it over. Bridgewater throws the interception to Duger, and then they have the drive. They have the one drive at the end of the game to go up. We're up 16-14, and they're able to put the game away. And so, they're able to – they got a touchdown in the fourth quarter, which essentially won the game.
Season's going to be on the line for the Dolphins this upcoming Sunday against the Jets. From 8-3 to now 8-8. My goodness, this could be an all-time collapse.
What does Miami need to get in? What do they need?
They just need to win. I think if they win, they're in. But it's just, how do you have any confidence? Who's starting at quarterback for Miami?
It's got to be Scott. But how about they didn't have Xavier Howard in the game? I mean, their defense is bad. I mean, they're going to have to change what they do. I know Josh Boyer stayed there after Flores left, and that he was part of you had to take Boyer on as part of the package when McDaniel came in. But we'll find out. I mean, like they can't play man-to-man. Like, they're not good enough to play man-to-man in the secondary. Like, I don't know how they're going to stop anybody.
It's not a good defense, and it's not a good situation.
And then they got to go on the road, right? If they're the 7th seed, 7 plays 2, so they either going to Kansas City or they're going to Cincinnati or they're going to Buffalo, right?
Mm-hmm.
Good luck with that.
With likely Teddy Bridgewater or Skylar Thompson. Now, who knows? Tua's still in the protocol, but I'd be pretty surprised if we see him this week. I mean, just
Yeah,
given that
although
there's been so many concussions.
I would say this, 2 weeks from now, there's not like we've had warm weather here on the East Coast the last 5-6 days since we had that cold spell. You can't guarantee on January the 12th it's still going to be warm.
Oh hell no, it'll be cold. This was a fluke. This is a blip on the radar. It'll be cold. I think it'll start being cold this upcoming weekend. But Michael, let's take another break though. We'll get to the rest of Sunday's slate on the other side. All right, Michael, let's get to the rest of Sunday's slate here. And let's start in the Pacific Northwest. The Seattle Seahawks, somehow, some way, they found a way to beat the second coming at quarterback. I don't know how they did it. I was told that everything was all gravy for Gang Green now that Mike White was back. But the Seahawks win 23-6. Mike White, 23 of 46, 242 interceptions, as that Seahawks defense that's been much maligned, and by me as well. I've been very critical of the Seattle defense. They came to play yesterday, and they got a big win, keeping their playoff hopes alive.
But I think that the untold story here is the fact that Seattle, with their two young offensive linemen, and they're and haven't won since they beat the Giants there back in October, dominated the line of scrimmage. They run the ball 38 times for 198 yards. I mean, Walker starts the game off with an explosive 60-yard run, and DJ Dallas has averages 6-1. I mean, the story of the game is the Jets' strength, which is supposed to be their defense, failed them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it did. It failed them. And that's they didn't, they were able to sack Geno Smith 4 times, but when you're giving up 5.2 yards per carry, where are you going? And the Jets are playing from behind the whole game. And so Mike White's thrown it 46 times out there in the Pacific Northwest. They're in 13 third downs. That's not going to work. And he's turning the ball over, and they can't protect. I mean, the Jets' offensive line at the end of the day is going to be what kills them. But the question you have to ask yourself is, where was the Jets' run defense? Like, where was that? And how does Seattle? It's amazing about Seattle. Like, how do they play defense? Like, how do they stop? They couldn't stop anybody. I mean, Carolina went up there and won. You right? I mean, and then the Jets can't even get the ball. I mean, I thought eventually, I know they got the lead early in the game, but, this Jet team, like, they couldn't stop them. But if you go back, see, this is what I think. When you get a rep, it's like that rep, Femi. If you go to work early and your car's there, like George Costanza's car was there and he just kept it there in the parking lot, you get that rep, then, nobody questions it. Think about this. Since the Jets' bye week, every team has run for at least 99 yards a game against them. This Jet defense, which is supposed to be based off turnovers, has only created 2 turnovers the entire in basically 7 games. 2 turnovers they've created in 7 games. That's all they have. And so, last week against Jacksonville, they ran for 147. Detroit ran for 107, and Detroit made the play that they had to make. So, like, we get this rep. Oh, they got Sauce Gardner. They're the greatest defense in all of football. Are they? I mean, think about it.
And I'll give you the credit because I think it was a month ago we were talking on the pod, and I said that the Jets had a Super Bowl caliber defense, and you pushed back against that. And you pushing back against that made me actually go in deeper and be, okay, like, let me see what I'm missing. Let me see what Michael is seeing here about this Jets defense, because from what I've seen, they've been really terrific. And then the game against Jacksonville, I thought last Thursday was really the one that drove it home for me. The way the Jags were moving the ball up and down the field. Now, Jacksonville kind of had some mistakes when they got into the red zone, so the score wasn't as daunting as it could have been. But I tweeted during that halftime that, hey, this Jets so-called elite defense is getting their ass kicked by the Jaguars. And then all these Jets fans, people were like, what are you talking about? Blah, blah, blah. They're only giving up this many points. I'm like, no, just watch what's happening. 3rd down, they can't get off the field. The Jags are just picking on those safeties. They're picking on those linebackers in the passing game. And now that's 2 straight weeks where this Jets defense. And I think it's maybe because we were all distracted by how bad Zach Wilson was, to where Zach Wilson got all of the blame, that this Jets defense, they've been kind of skating by a little bit here off of reputation like you outlined, and maybe they're not as good as we all thought they were.
Well, I mean, look, here's the reality. They've turned the ball over 10 times offensively in the last 5 weeks. They've created 1 turnover. So they're -9. They're -9 in that area. And you can't win that way. And I think ultimately when you get this perception that you're this elite team, and teams are able to run the ball. I mean, when they played, Miami in week 5 of the season, Miami was able to run the ball in that game. Miami actually ran the ball more than they threw it in that game. New England, in the game that they won 22-17, ran the ball for 127 yards on them, right? And, so I think there's a perception. I think ultimately this. I think Saleh, as a head coach, only knows one thing. He knows what the defense does. He can't see the big picture, right? And so the conversation Kyle had with D'Amico Ryans about we've got to be multifaceted. We're going to have to change some of the things we do. We can't live like this. No matter how talented we are, we have to change some of the scheme and be more diversified. That's not happening in New York. That's got to be an off season. They're going to Saleh's got to sit down with himself and say, okay, I got to be a head coach here. I'm not going to change what I do. The philosophy is going to stay this, but we're going to have to incorporate different things because people can run the ball on us, and we're not creating turnovers the way we're playing. I mean, they've only had one game this year, and that was against Pittsburgh, where it was a multi-turnover, where they had more than 2 turnovers. They had four against Pittsburgh. They created 2 against Miami and the backup quarterbacks, and Josh Allen gave them 2. Other than that, they've been having a hard time.
Well, I guess Robert Saleh was too busy keeping the receipts that he was going to tell us about.
Cash those bad boys in.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be worth much as the Jets lost 5 straight games, went from virtual lock to make the playoffs to now out of the playoffs, eliminated before Week 18. I don't think those receipts are coming up with anything out there in the Meadowlands. Let's keep it moving, though. The Browns and the Commanders, goodness gracious. I mean, we saw once again Carson Wentz in a game where his team absolutely needed it, and it's not all his fault. I don't want to put it all on Wentz, but he didn't play well, to be frank about it. Cleveland beats the Washington Commanders 24-10 in the game that Washington absolutely needed. I don't even know where to begin with this. I mean, I think that everybody is on the hot seat, whether it's the head coach, the quarterback. Everyone's under investigation and up for change, I think.
Well, I mean, it depends on when they announce the sale of the team, if they sell the team. I mean, because if Dan Snyder was really Dan Snyder, this wouldn't happen. I mean, this will now be the 5th season in the last 5 for Ron Rivera, where he's had a winning season as a head coach. 5 in a row.
Yeah.
Okay? His record is 33, 43, and 2 over the last 5 years. Right? And so, at some point, now look, I think Wentz is done conning people. He conned me when he went to Indianapolis. I thought Frank Reich could save him. He conned me there. I think he's done conning people. I think this is it for Wentz. I don't think he can con anybody anymore. No. He conned Washington, and I think the con's over. I think the sting has ended. This is it. They got to play Sam Howell in this game, in this weekend. They have to play Sam Howell just to see what he can do. Maybe he'll give them a little bit of hope when they play Dallas, right? Mm-hmm. But to me, the con's off, right? And because one thing with the reason he played Wentz is because he was turning the ball over. The last 2 games against the Giants and against the 49ers, they had 4 turnovers. So Heineke, they wanted to kind of eliminate that. And so naturally Wentz shows up and gives them 3.
Just an atrocious performance. After the game, Jadeveon Clowney told the Washington Post that, quote, "Once we get him rattled in the pocket, it's over."
Yep. I think that's right. And that offensive line is bad. I mean, that's one of the worst lines in football. So the fact that you could almost argue that Ron Rivera winning 7 games with that shitty offensive line should be Coach of the Year candidate, considering it. But I mean, look, the fact that 2 of those 7 wins come against Houston and Atlanta.
In the Atlanta game, they easily could have lost that one. How many games did Atlanta won this year? I mean, honest to God,
6.
They should have beat Baltimore. Right? They should have beat Washington. All these games that they somehow threw away, and they would have been right there in the thick of it in the NFC South.
So the 7 wins. I mean, they got the good win against Jacksonville. They beat Chicago in an ugly game on Thursday night. They beat Green Bay when they're playing shitty. They beat the Colts, right, by a point. I think Frank Wright was still there.
Yeah, Frank Wright.
The best win they had was against Philly. Everything else has been against teams not other than Jacksonville.
And that was week 1 for Jacksonville there when they were still trying to figure themselves out. You mentioned that Rivera should be maybe kind of in the Coach of the Year discussion because of what he did with 7 wins with that crappy offensive line that he has. I think the real coach of the year, though, was in the Meadowlands with Brian Daboll and the New York Giants. I mean, the Giants beating the Colts 38-10. I mean, the Colts are barely an NFL team, but it's just another impressive performance.
They got Saturday in the Park. He's coming back. He's only been outscored by 86 points at his 1-6 record. Certainly bring him back. He's made a huge difference to their program. You can just see it. Yeah. I love how he's now looks like he's calling plays. He's got the gig down. Like, he went to theatrical school. He knows how to play the game. Like, he's got it. He's making notes. He's talking. I promise you, there's nothing coming out of his mouth other than "let's play harder, guys. Let's go."
Does he have
there ain't nothing. There's nothing coming out of there.
Does he have the index card to write notes after every play, like Brandon Staley?
Yeah.
Does he have?
I mean, like, give me a break. I mean, they've been outscored 212 to 126 under his reign there.
I mean, it's been bad, but on the positive side of it, though, the New York Giants clinch a playoff spot. First time since 2016. This team was 4-13 last year, Michael. Brian Daboll comes in. He brings in Mike Kafka. He brings in Wink Martindale. This roster is a bottom 5 roster. When you look, I mean, who are the guys that are the skill position guys?
It's unbelievable.
It's atrocious. And here
it tells you how much coaching. It tells you how much coaching matters. Give Daboll credit.
Yeah.
Now we got to have Daniel Jones back. Okay, you better be careful how much you pay Daniel Jones. I think you should sign Daniel Jones back, but you can't pay him like $40 million. Like, you got to make sure you have a conversation with Daniel Jones. Say, Daniel, you need to be like part of this. You're not it. And Saquon, like if they spend all their money on those two, because look, before they got there, this salary cap of the Giants was a disaster.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a disaster this year. So not only have they overcome a bad roster, they were the worst combination of a team. A bad roster with a shitty cap.
Yeah, they were one of the more expensive rosters and not getting anything out of it. But I'm looking at their roster right now. Other than Saquon Barkley and a couple of the linemen there's just not that many good players that you'd say, hey, I'd want this guy on my team.
It just shows you if you manage the game, you play to the strength of the quarterback, which is what they're doing, and you don't make mistakes, you don't turn it over, you protect yourself, you play good in the red zone, you blitz the quarterback, you attack it. I mean, they did a great job in scheming. You make adjustments during the game. I think it just goes you. You can win. If you avoid losing, you can win 7 games. If you avoid losing, you can win 7 games. And so they have. I mean, do I think they can beat somebody? I mean, I think they can beat Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
But they have to. But again, we keep saying this. They're really well, but they have to play their style, right? That's what they have to do. I mean, Daniel Jones he's only had 5 interceptions. He's only thrown 5 interceptions this year. I mean, think about that, right? Now, he's fumbled 6 times. He's tried to give it away that way. But he's only had 5. So they do a good job protecting the ball. They punt. They don't mind a good punt.
Yeah. Yesterday, Daniel Jones, 19 of 24, 177, 2 touchdowns. And then on the ground, 11 carries, 91 yards, and 2 more touchdowns. They were chanting Daniel Jones's name, Michael. Did you ever think that would happen at MetLife Stadium?
Not. Of course not. Why? but you don't drink the martini. Don't drink the martini.
I'm not.
No, I'm talking about Giant.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the Giants brass. Don't drink the martini. Like, understand why you're winning and why you lose. Understand it. That's the most important thing. Don't drink the martini. Oh, Daniels, we could build off of that. No, like, we know who he is, and it's the old Scotty Williams theory, right? Do you remember who Scotty Williams was in the NBA?
No, I don't remember Scotty Williams. No.
Okay, he played for the Bulls with Jordan. And being a rehab 76er fan, this has always stuck in my mind. So Scotty Williams, Harold Katz owns the 76ers. He owns the team and he does all the personnel too. He's a one-man show. Mm-hmm. So Scotty Williams played good against the 76ers, and he played 10 minutes a night for the Bulls. And he'd get like 6 or 7 rebounds, right? So naturally, what does Harold think? Harold thinks, okay, let's sign Scotty to a huge contract. We'll play him 25 minutes, and we should get 12 rebounds and 20 points. Not so fast. Like, there's limits to Scotty. There's limits to Daniel Jones. Invoke the Scotty Williams thing. Like, if we think we're going to expand on Daniel, no. No, you're thinking wrong. If we could get better players around him, now we are. But Daniel's got to buy into that. Like, he's got to say, okay, yeah, I get that. Like, I'll take my $25 million a year, but if I got to give you 40, I'll find somebody else.
I just looked up Scotty Williams. Yeah, he was he was never a big time scorer or anything like that, but
of course we had to pay him because it's the Roy Hinson thing. If you play good, they traded Brad Daugherty for Roy Hinson because Roy Hinson always played good against them. But he didn't play good against anybody else. But he played good against the Sixers. Why are you bringing these memories back for me, Femi? It just ruined my New Year.
Sorry. Didn't mean to go down Sixers path there, but hey, Tyrese Maxey's back. I heard things are going to get better for Philadelphia. Last game that we're going to get to, though, the Kansas City Chiefs, they beat the Denver Broncos 27-24. This Chiefs team, and I've said it all season, and people have gotten on me saying that you're nitpicking the Chiefs. You're what are you seeing that we're not seeing? All this stuff. I'm sorry, they don't look impressive. They beat Denver. They allowed Denver to score 24 points. That game changed, Michael. I'm not sure if you saw it. On the offensive pass interference penalty they called on Cortland Sutton, when the Broncos had the ball up 4, they were about to have it inside Kansas City territory there to start the fourth quarter. They call OPI. The rest is history. The Chiefs go ahead and win the game. They go to 13-3 right now, currently in the number 1 seed in the AFC. We'll see what happens tonight. But I don't know. The fact that this was a close game against a 4-win Broncos team, it's got to be concerning even to the most beloved Chief fan.
Well, I think there's just moments in the game where the Chiefs don't play good. Like the third quarter, they had 3 3-and-outs, right? Mm-hmm. And so they're not good enough on defense to really they got to keep winning serve, And they went 3-and-out, 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 and it allows the other team to kind of and of course the Broncos scored. And when the Broncos have a chance until the beginning of the fourth quarter when he throws that interception. And then the Chiefs go down and score again. And then, then the Broncos score, and then the Chiefs score again, on the interception. They score on the interception. So, to me, that's the problem.
Yeah, this Chiefs team, they have a chance at the 1 seed if Cincinnati wins tonight. But I think that they're not as good as people think. And we've said it all throughout this season.
Well, they are with Mahomes. I mean,
but they're so reliant on him, Michael. Is that successful? Is that a good recipe?
I mean, it is when he's the best player. I mean, he makes these plays. It's like people would look at Iverson's box score and say, well, he went 9 for 33, but he made 4 shots that won the game. Like he made 4 plays that won the game. Like I don't think you can dismiss him. I think that if they're ahead of a team, they become less dangerous because they tend to take their foot off the gas a little bit, not because of their play call, just because of the lackadaisical attitude.
Yeah, the recipe for Kansas City to win the Super Bowl is Mahomes is A+ in 3 straight games, and maybe he will be because he is the best player, like you said, and maybe he's just going to be the Michael Jordan of the NFL. But we saw it last year. Sometimes he doesn't play his absolute very best because it's hard to be A+ in 3 consecutive high-pressure games. Maybe he will this year. He's going to win MVP.
But it's funny, too. Tooney got hurt yesterday, so I don't know where their offensive line is. That's got to worry you because they got to, when they play against good teams, their protection hasn't been great.
Yeah, they've lost to both Buffalo and Cincinnati. Let's, Michael, take our final break, and we will get to that game. Bills, Bengals tonight, Monday Night Football, one of the biggest games of the year here. We'll talk about it on the GM Shuffle. All right, Michael, before we get to week number 17, Monday Night Football, let's hand out some hardware. The Fred Palermo best game plan of the week. Who's that going to?
I got to give it. The Saints defense was great yesterday. I mean, they rushed the passer. They contained the Seagull offense. And you say, well, they had Minshew in there. They gained 350 yards passing against the Cowboys. They did a great job. They controlled the game. And even when the Eagles made their comeback, it's 13-10. The mental toughness of the Saints didn't buckle, and they make the big play to win the game. I loved what they did yesterday.
Who's going on the lam?
Well, we're putting Carson Wentz on the lam. You got to put your Jets on the lam. We got to put your Justin Fields MVP ticket on the lam. I mean, what else can we put on the lam? We got a lot of lambing going on here. I mean, I think ultimately Wentz, there's no way Wentz can con anybody another year. There's just no chance.
Yeah, no, I don't see. I think Wentz is a starter. Is done in the NFL. The fraud, the David Ogilvy Award.
Well, I think, I don't want to call him a fraud. I think that's unfair, but I think somebody needs to peel back. Like Ron Rivera hasn't had a wing record in 5 years as a head coach. Mm-hmm. I know he's a tremendous guy. Everybody loves him. But at some point, your record speaks for yourself. And when you're 33, 43-2, and you've got a chance to win some of these close games, he's lucky Dan Snyder's been neutered. I mean, remember, Marty Schottenheimer got fired going 8-8.
It used to be high expectations in our nation's capital. If you don't know, now you know.
I think the Chargers, and I've been critical of Staley on the pod. I think he's kind of eliminated himself from the decision-making. He's not taking the dumb chances, but they're playing their best football right now of anybody. I don't think anybody wants to play the Chargers with Herbert throwing the ball, with Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, ridiculous catches. and they're able to run it. And their defense, to me, which has been the best part. Now, the Rams ran the ball, but their defense has been able to get off the field, rush the passer, create problems. I think they're playing their best football this season right now.
I need to write that on my note card here like Brandon Staley. Chargers playing their best ball heading into the playoffs. Monday Night Football, Michael, is the Bills and the Bengals. What a game this is going to be in Cincinnati. Right now at our show sponsor, DraftKings, Buffalo, 1.5-point road favorites, total 49.5. This game has all the makings, Michael, the combined 23 wins between the two teams, tied for the most ever entering a Monday Night Football matchup. The other matchup, Week 16 in 1997 between the Broncos and the 49ers. Niners won that game at home 34-17, but who do you see winning this one tonight?
It's going to be 60 degrees in Cincinnati tonight. Think about that. It's going to be crazy. 60 degrees. And, this is Buffalo's moment, right? I mean, I think they have to kind of seize it and take it over. To me, when I watch this, I'm going to lean Buffalo here, but that doesn't mean I don't like Cincinnati. I kind of been tossed up here because I think Cincinnati with Burrow, but I do think without the right tackle, Tunsil in the game, I think that affects, not Tunsil,
Lyle Collins.
Collins. Yeah. Without him, I think it does affect Cincy's offense, and I think Buffalo can match up the way they play scheme. I like Sean McDermott against Zach Taylor offensively, and I think when it comes to it, I think Allen makes plays with his feet. I'll take Buffalo.
Yeah, I'd lean Buffalo as well. I'm not going to bet the game. I just feel like this game is lined fair. Buffalo is a short road favorite. Makes a lot of sense to me. A lot at stake, though, in this game. If the Bengals win, they clinch the AFC North because the Ravens lost last night to the Steelers. And if Buffalo wins, then they will be in the driver's seat for the number 1 seed. Bills, if they win out, they control their own destiny to get that first-round bye. Cincy can also get a first-round bye, but they have to win out and then hope that Kansas City loses Saturday against the Raiders.
If Buffalo loses, right, they're probably the 2 seed for sure. Or no, Cincy would be. They could go down to the 3 seed. Yeah.
Yeah. Who do you think needs the game more? Do you think it's Buffalo that needs it more, or do you think it's Cincinnati?
I think Cincy needs to clinch it. I think they just need to clinch it. I think Buffalo's going to get a home game. 3 plays 6. That's not bad. 2 plays 7. I think whoever's the 7th, I think you'd rather be 2 than anything, because whoever's going to get in the 7th seed, Buffalo's going to be able to beat them.
Yeah. I think it's a game that I would say Buffalo needs a little bit more, just because we know that whenever they have to go up to Arrowhead in January, for some reason it hasn't worked out. But I think this year, though, they're pretty equipped.
But it worked out this year.
Yeah.
And if that was 13 seconds away from working out before.
It most definitely was. Hell, I'd sign up for that game. If we get anything close to what we saw last January, that was an epic contest there that saw the Chiefs go ahead and advance to the AFC title game. Well, that does it for this week's edition of the podcast. Happy New Year to you, Michael, as always.
Same to you,
Make
Femi.
sure to subscribe, rate, and review. Our producer, Elliot Bond, with us on the 1s and 2s. We will be back Thursday to break down the final week of the regular season. I can't believe we've already made it this far through this NFL year, but it's going to be good as we get the playoffs on the horizon. So we'll see you guys on Thursday. Until then, be well and subscribe, rate, and review, and we'll talk to you in a couple of days.
Thanks, fam. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for watching the GM Shuffle with Michael Lombardi. And for more videos like this, make sure to subscribe to VSiN Live and the GM Shuffle podcast with Michael Lombardi, presented by DraftKings and VSiN, wherever you get your podcasts.